that could have been today's moment in time, but as the viewers here know, we like to start off every episode with a moment in time. I didn't anticipate that story. I like that story. I would have never heard the Wizard Williams being mentioned on this show today, but here we are. Today's moment in time is going to be May 23rd, 2005. And while you think about it, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. What occurred in Rasheed Wallace's world on May 23rd, 2005? You have told the story a couple of times about an individual that has given you hell on the court. What do you think was happening at the end of May? How many teams are left in the playoffs at the end of May?
Yeah, I was about to say that got to be either like something like conference finals or that year might be NBA finals. One of the two.
You got it. It's the conference finals against the Miami Heat. Game 1, and you give Shaquille O'Neal, who is still, in your own words, still very much in his prime when he went to Miami. You gave him 20-something points, which equates to about a quarter of the entire team's scoring, as these games in the mid-2000s were finishing 80-81. After all those times that he made you go back to the locker room and you went like this, pads and ice, and I just can't. Tonight was your night, Sheed. I wanted to give you a redemption opportunity here to flex a little bit on the night that you gave Shaquille O'Neal hell.
Hey, no, that was a good night right there, and it was always a good series. It's always a good matchup with him, and I gotta pretty much credit Ben to a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? Because Ben was always the one that could guard him straight up solo, because he was always strong enough with him. Being a stronger athlete. So, and it's funny. It's funny. Here's how you grow. Here's how you develop. It's funny. So as I told y'all before, going back to my days in Portland, when Cliff Robinson, rest in peace, Uncle Cliffy, when he was my teammate, he told me like, hey, Sheed, you got to pick and choose. You know what I'm saying? You can't battle with Shaq, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I told y'all about the ice and all that. Fast forward to this game. Or even to the period once Shaq came over to the East Coast. Even when he was with Cleveland, it was still, I thought back to this moment. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to be able to battle him a lot. I know he still outweighs me. He's still a dominant force, but back in those LA days, his younger days, oh my gosh, he was by far the best athlete on earth for a couple of years in my book. But I just had to go with it. Hey, I can't post him up every time. Let's go pick and pops. You know what I'm saying? Put me in the corner, this and that, stretch him, keep him away from the basket. And so I just took Uncle Cliffy's advice. And, man, let me tell you this. After this game or after this series, I didn't have to ice my elbows and my back and my knees and my feet and everything. Nah, not at all, because it wasn't as much of a fight for me. You know what I mean? But it was a great series, though. That's when they had a young D. Wade. My guy, Udonis Haslem, that's my man right there. Young Udonis. Yeah. And man, it was a great series with us and them. You talking about at the time two of the most dominant forces in the East Coast. Miami, of course, that great team they had. I think at that time they also had Posey as well. Jay Posey was in that mix. So, man, them was the good old days right there.
So as you were beginning the description of this night, you were talking about how Ben Wallace drew the assignment. Thank God I had Ben next to me, and one of the first plays that ran while you were speaking was Shaquille here. It's coming up here in a second again, is him just backing down Ben like he is ragdoll. I mean, Ben is a massive dude, and he makes him step back about 4 or 5 feet before just laying it in on top of him. And Ben Wallace being this defensive player that was so dominant, it got him to the damn Hall of Fame. To see him get moved at this point in Shaq's career, post Orlando, post LA, he was still that level of athlete. But this highlight also includes that number 36 guy. All these highlights seem to be outside the paint, and he's spoken to it before, that when you step outside the three-point line, all of a sudden you got Udonis Haslem on you or Shaq outside of his comfort zone, and that's how you win a game like this. You take him into the deep end. All right, here's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Just that's Ben Wallace. That
Story.
just you could either push him in the back a little bit. This was him in his absolute peak form, but your ability to stretch the floor and shoot three-pointers ultimately is, I think, the big reason why you were able to put up numbers on this night, despite the physical dominance of that man.
For real, that's the big dude, man, heavy dude, even to this day, Again, Shaq is always going to be one. You got to always mention his name when you're talking about some of the most dominant centers / dominant players in this league.
Crazy. All right, well, she did get his way at least one night in this moment in time. No, I like getting both sides of it because it would be it would be a biased show if she was coming in here like, nah, I killed Shaq, this and this. No, I like hearing both sides of it. I mean, that story you told in the locker room where you're just boy, did you learn your lesson that night? And when you get him a couple years down the road, when you're both wearing a different uniform, you can bust his ass because of lessons you learned delivered by Shaq. So I can appreciate the humility.
And the fact we also played a key part of that was he was older as well. Because with him being older than me, fast forward maybe 7, 8, 9 years or something like that. Fast forward to where he's out of LA or whatever. So yeah, that played a key part in it. Trust me.